Now, tonight on our front, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources breaks silence following organized labor and about a dozen other civil society organizations' ultimatum to government to end illegal mining or face their wrath. According to these groups, government has not been serious with the fight against galamsey, despite claiming to be working to end the menace we've all had difficulties with. Illegal miners appear emboldened and now mining close to roadsides, including the Accra-Kumasi highways, with water bodies being heavily polluted at an alarming rate. Only 2 weeks ago, the Ghana Water Company actually warned everybody in this country about an acute water shortage, which is likely to hit the country if illegal mining is not halted due to their inability to treat polluted rivers caused by galamsey. Today, at an extraordinary forum to drive home that demand, these groups, under the umbrella of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining, made a raft of demands, including the declaration of a state of emergency over water bodies and the deployment of the military to clear all illegal miners from whichever quarters they find themselves. We'll give you details, plus the responses of the Lands Ministry, and then explore the governance angle to all of this conversation, be it local governance, be it the very decentralization we have tried and explored, or at the national level, the response. We'll be asking my guests in studio and via Zoom exactly what they make of this particular conversation. Joining me now is Dr. George Manful. He's a former UN Senior Climate Change Advisor and also the chairman of the Environment and Sustainability Thematic Group of the Freeport Manso Institute. Also joining this conversation pretty soon is Professor Bafo Ajimandua. He's also a former UN Senior Governance Advisor. We will be exploring the local governance angles with Professor Joseph Achuayi, a distinguished political scientist and a local governance expert on UPfront tonight. But let me start in studio because this fight is just gotten to the level where the people we all asked to join appears to be now coming to the table. I'm talking here about clergy, be it Christian Council, the Catholic Bishops Conference, and also the other group which are known to be leading the Islamic clerics. We also have, as we speak today, other groups, about 6 of them, equally speaking out and saying they are going to end it. Indeed, for the group spearheaded by Senior OC, their clarion call is that they'll put 1 million people on the streets in Accra, as Labour is also threatening within 2 weeks. If they don't see real action on the ground, they are going to not only protest, but call a nationwide strike until this menace is dealt with comprehensively. Doc, you're welcome once again.
Thank you.
I hope you are doing well this evening.
Thank you very much, I am.
It's a conversation that started with people like you insisting that real action is required.
That's right.
But now we are having basically the groups that have been, the pressure groups that really mount pressure on government and it results in action, all coming on board. Is this a sign of good things to come from where you sit?
I really hope so. I really hope so. Because this illegal gold mining or illegal mining has gone on for far too long. Mm-hmm. In the early years of my career in the Environmental Protection Agency, almost 42, 43 years ago, we had tackled this problem of illegal mining. But now the dimensions we see it is way beyond what any of us could anticipate. Hence, there is the need for all of us, all interested parties, to get together to try and fix this problem. And it must be fixed.
And I'm happy you talked about you being at the EPA in times past. Yes. You have been working in the environment sector in the Republic of Ghana for God knows how long. Yeah. Has this always been, we know this is not the first time we've had illegal mining as a problem in this country. Yeah. Has it always been this dangerous? Has it been this widespread? Have they always been this brazen in the destruction of our environment, our water bodies, and having this happening broad daylight? Non-Ghanaians coming all over Africa, Nigerians, Malians, all being part of this wanton destruction of our water bodies and our vegetation.
Raymond, it's been very bad now, extremely bad. I've never seen the state of our environment being degraded as we see now. Okay. I mean, illegal mining had been going on, small-scale mining had been going on, but the scale at which the current destruction of the environment is, for example, water pollution, degradation of our rivers, putting in heavy metals in our rivers, mercury in our rivers. I mean, it has never happened in these dimensions. Now we have heavy machinery going into small-scale mining, which is illegal. I mean, for years, people were digging and looking for gold with axes and shovels. Now we are using excavators. Now we are diverting rivers and streams. And this cannot go on, because for the kind of resources that we have in this country as a nation, Ghana is blessed with gold. And now with the price of gold as high as almost $250,500 per ounce of gold, if efforts are not made to nip this challenge or this cancer in the bud, we are going to have serious problems. For example, now we have people, as we mentioned, from all over the continent of Africa, because Ghana is blessed with gold. In fact, Ghana is about within one of the 10, 11, 12 nations producing the largest amount of gold. We are number 10, and we've been beating South Africa to rate as the biggest gold producer in Africa. And therefore, the government and the agencies will have to work hard to stop this illegal mining, because much of the gold coming from Galamsey does not, the government gets no revenue. They're all smuggled out of the country. PMMC does not get any gold from illegal mining. And small-scale mining contributes approximately 30% of our total gold earnings. So we have to have this illegal Galamsey problem resolved, and it can be done. Quite recently, a colleague and I were discussing about environmental issues, and the gentleman is from Burkina Faso, and he was telling me, George, you know, I think we better adopt the concept of ecocide, which people call ecological genocide, meaning the destruction of the natural environment willfully or deliberately, knowing that this is going to cause such a widespread impact on people. Ghana will have to consider along the line to criminalize destruction of the environment. Otherwise, our water bodies will no longer be. And let me put it this way. When Ghana Water treats our water for domestic consumption, they don't remove heavy metals. The treatment processes used by Ghana Water does not take away heavy metals like mercury. So when mercury enters into the water body, we're going to drink mercury. Thankfully, we haven't observed any elevated levels of mercury in our water bodies. But when it does, there's nothing we can do.
Now, there are very specific demands. For example, the group called Organized Labor has made on the presidency of the Republic of Ghana. Some of them I'll be raising with you quickly. Organized Labor is demanding immediate actions from the President of the Republic as follows. 1, an immediate declaration of state of emergency in line with the provisions of the 1992 Constitution. And they are making direct reference to Articles 31 and 34A. In fact, they are actually making as a corollary to the main demand of 1, the declaration must incorporate the following: an order to halt all forms of mining, be it legal or illegal, in forest reserves and around water bodies. Do you think this call is a sensible approach immediately? State of emergency, which will include a halt to both legal and illegal mining in forest reserves and around water bodies?
That's an interesting and a challenging issue. Why? Because approximately 750,000 to 1 million Ghanaians are directly and indirectly involved in small-scale mining.
Really?
Yes.
About 1 million Ghanaian people? About 1 million
Ghanaians are involved in small-scale mining, directly and indirectly. Okay, those who provide services.
Of course, the linkages.
The linkages. About 1 million. So it's an issue which, and I think this is one of the reasons why the government finds it difficult to solve this problem.
Okay.
But it must be solved. To declare a moratorium on small-scale mining is something that should be considered for a very short period of time because of its political and socioeconomic consequences.
Because what they're asking for is that don't do any form of mining around be it what you call legal or illegal, around forest reserves and water bodies?
In forest reserves, yes. But for water bodies, it's difficult. Why?
Why?
Because gold is always processed with water. Either you go underground, like Obuasi, you go deep down and then you pump underground water. It's a hydrometallurgical process.
Okay.
You can never process gold without water.
But they don't want it happening around water bodies.
Water bodies, exactly. So in that regard, there must be a management strategy where when all, you see, for example, my problem with small-scale mining is that most of the areas which the people are doing galamsey, the amount or the degree of mineralization is too low, meaning that the amount of grams of gold per ton of ore is too low, that when they strike the gold, they cannot reclaim. If you have an area which is well mineralized, then you can even take the cost of transporting water from the main rivers. You can have a permission to abstract some amount of water, process the gold, store it in some form of a sedimentation tank or some natural basins, and later when the water is settled, you can return the processed water back into the river. Or if it's polluted and it's not so good, you cannot return it back into the river. So the issue is that you cannot process gold without water. And if you want to process gold, mine gold in areas where the degree of mineralization is so high that you can reclaim the degraded lands. As I had said a couple of days back, if you destroy the soil, it takes 200 years to form 1 centimeter of soil.
Okay.
So, and you can grow things only when they're about 15 centimeters, 6 inches. And you know how much it takes? It takes the better part of 3,000 years to form enough depth of soil to support even vegetables, let alone yam and other farm produce. So we need to protect our land. We need to protect our water. Wherever we don't have enough water, we should stop mining.
Now, I get your point here. About, are you saying that this is not a very realistic proposal to make? That the president should declare a state of emergency and halt illegal mining around water bodies?
It should be done, but within a shorter period of time to fix the issue. You see, because if you don't get water, you cannot process gold, alluvial gold or whatever. So it means that, okay. Yes.
I would also be asking you, forgive me, about the immediate evacuation of all mining equipment in forest reserves and around water bodies. These are the other things that are being asked for by organized labor. The next one is about the deployment of the police and the military with full orders to remove and destroy all mining equipment and other earth-moving equipment around water bodies and in the forest. So you end it, then you deploy military and police to remove the equipment and also evacuate all mining equipment in our forest and also water bodies. That is the first recommendation, or that's the first demand, actually. They're making a demand on government there. This is linked to the very first one, but is there a reasonable proposal?
It's a reasonable proposal if we don't have a handle on the problem. You see, although many people would be out of work, granted, but if we are unable to stop illegal mining, destruction of the flora and fauna, destruction of water bodies, if we don't have a mechanism to put this in place for people to mine responsibly, then we have to stop it. It has to be stopped until measures are put in place to allow proper supervise where Minerals Commission can check compliance with the mining regulations. I mean, unless we have a handle on this issue, we shouldn't mine.
I will come back to you, Dr. Manfo, in studio with me here. And also joining us now is Professor Achuayi. I am convinced that Professor Achuayi is actually the local governance expert that we need for this conversation. I should be able to raise him and have this conversation with him right away. Prof, good evening, and thank you so much for joining me.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Prof. I want us to explore two main angles, that of the local governance and also national governance in this case. Where has the failure been most pronounced? Is it within our local governance system or at the national governance system?
It's a combination of both national, local governance, implementation, and citizens' apathy. Let me give you a classic example. If you look at the local governments, they are supposed to have not only district offices of the Minerals Commission, but also district mining, committees. But these, committees, either they are malfunctional, they are not working, nothing is happening at that level. Actually, those of us in Accra, we don't feel, apart from the issue of drinking bad water, we don't see what is happening. But the people in the rural areas live with these things, live with these people, and they cannot talk. So, one, I will blame it on the chiefs. Two, I will blame it on the citizens. Citizens' apathy has not been very good in this country. They have obligations. The obligation is that they must discharge their responsibilities as citizens, which they haven't done. But also, talking about national governance, successive governments had not had the goodwill to actually take on the fight. It is about equalization. It is about politicization. It is about A, B, C, and D. We need effective leadership, which should be able to bring everybody on board to have a consensus on how to deal with Galamsey. People have called on the president for state to declare a state of emergency. We had COVID. The president never declared a state of emergency. And he's been asked to do so. Will he do that? I think that the pressure is good, but we must be realistic and measured in what can be done and what cannot be done.
You don't think that's a feasible ploy? You don't think it is?
Well, you can declare a state of emergency, but then it depends on whether you can implement it. Implementation has always been a problem. Look, I have taken the trouble to look at Act 703, the Minerals and Mining Act and all that, and the amendments of 2019 and all that. Everything is there. The sanctions, where they are supposed to do the role of the committees, the role of the district offices of the Mineral Commission, everything is there, but we have developed a cold feet. So I think that leadership is important, local leadership is important, and responsible citizenship is also very important. The apathy is not helping us at all as a country.
Prof, I should get back to you. In studio here is Professor Bafwa Ajimadia. And of course, I started the governance angle just when you actually joined this conversation because it appears very important. Yes. This is also so because I've heard and I've seen the ministry put out a statement, and I should be able to give you excerpts of that particular statement. This statement is quite directed that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, if you can see it on your screen, Honorable Samuel Jinapo, together with officials of the ministry, they held extensive engagements with regional ministers to review our ongoing efforts. And this suggests, in the first place, that there are ongoing efforts. That's a conversation we've not been having, and many people have not seen real action on the ground. Our ongoing efforts at dealing with the canker of illegal small-scale mining. The meeting adopted measures at tackling the age-old national problem of illegal mining, that's what we call Galamsey, through a comprehensive approach. And this is what they say. Government will continue with the dual strategy of reformative measures and strict enforcement. This is to suggest that that's currently happening. There's a dual strategy, reformative measures and also strict enforcement. The regional ministers, alongside their respective regional security councils have been mandated to intensify enforcement actions within their various jurisdictions to contain incidents of illegal small-scale mining. Additionally, the Minerals Commission would enhance our reformative efforts, particularly through ramping up the establishment of responsible and legal community mining schemes, which have been regarded, which have had regard to the preservation of our nation's landscape and environment. Government remains steadfast and committed to continue to restore order and ensure that mining activities are conducted sustainably and legally in the national interest. We entreat all and sundry to support these efforts to enable us protect our environment, preserve our water bodies, and ensure a sustainable future for generations to come. While government warmly welcomes the heightened interest in the all-important national issue, we urge the discourse to be devoid of partisanship so as to enable us galvanize the needed national and collective support to root out this canker. Prof, this is basically saying at the regional level, they should increase their efforts. We are continuing the dual effort of trying to find alternative ways of restoring the environment and everything connected to it. From where you sit, is this comprehensive enough? Is this the robust response you wanted? At least we know TUC had wanted something like declaration of national emergency and the halting of illegal and both legal small-scale mining around water bodies and forests. But this is what government said it's doing today, just released.
Well, it seems to me there's a great dissonance between what the government sees and what the public perceives. I think the public around the organizations that have been meeting all day and issuing statements and the government's perception of the crisis are different. And it seems to me what you just read is simply English, maybe small or big English, I don't know. But it doesn't show any indication of the seriousness of the problem. I wonder if these people do drive on our ways and they are alert and they see the river bodies over which we drive on the bridges. Last week or so, Dotumfo stopped at River Pra, and I think he made a statement yesterday indicating how embarrassing was it to see that water. So for government to issue this statement, it's a non-starter, in my humble view. The problem is huge. And I think the government has been lacking the nerves to tackle it over the years to a point where it has completely gone out of control. Because the measures that they say they've been having, they're working through the regional ministers, is completely useless. Because look, we have a centralized government, and it's what the government, or the president, if I should say, in Accra, what he wants is what the ministers will do in the regions. They represent the president, the same with the district chief executives. And that tells you how this centralized governance system we have is failing us. Those in the districts and the regions are almost powerless in enforcing measures unless the national government, per se, takes the action. So this statement that we just read, for me, is a non-starter. Look, I think people are calling for
state of emergency. Go down there, halt the processes, halt illegal mining, be it in forest, or even legal mining in forest and also around water bodies.
Listen, first of all, let's talk about the forest. When we were ruled by the white folks, that is when they created forest reserves. And the rationale for forest reserves is for this country not to exhaust its natural resources for posterity. If they had really destroyed those forests about 60 years ago or so, we wouldn't be here talking about this. This country would have been totally devastated. So it's the responsibility of every government in power to ensure that this preservation is protected. I do not understand how any government agency can decide to issue licenses for private individuals or for companies to enter these virgin forests, a real asset for the nation, for them to begin to destroy these forests. That I do not understand. And I think at the appropriate time, the heads of these agencies issuing licenses must be called to task. And in fact, more seriously, they should even be, I guess, arrested. Because we need to find out the reasons why they will grant license for the destruction of these national assets. That's the first one.
Would they not be following the law along the line?
Well, you see, that is the point.
The legislative instrument
on
that preserved forest.
Yes.
And declare some of these forests as, I mean, giving people permission to enter and invade the forest.
That is the tragedy of the education we have and those who are highly educated and placed in charge of the nation. It's not my father or my mother or grandmother who will do that. We use our knowledge for the destruction of the country, but not for the preservation of what is Ghanaian. Why would you issue licenses for people to go in these forests to mine? You want to destroy these forest reserves? So that whole notion of amending laws, making the laws easier for people to destroy the nation in itself, those who initiated such laws might be called to task, number one. So now talking about the second point, talking about declaring a state of emergency. I've spoken to some of my military friends. And seriously, that is very complicated. And especially going towards elections, such a declaration can create a lot of problems for us because it entails a lot. But I think what is feasible and what can be done without going through the process of declaring state of emergency, which may require parliamentary approval and all, there is what you may call declaring zones, security zones.
Okay, yeah.
Security zones can be declared by the National Security Council, of course, the president's approval. When that is done, the soldiers can go into these mapped areas and quickly cordon off the place, shield it from these people, and drive everybody out. That the military can do within a matter of days. So what I'll propose is this concept of security zones mapping out. Because when you declare a state of emergency, it's almost national. The movement and the restrictions and sleep from 6 to 7 is very complicated. I've listened to all the constitutional provisions for that, and I think people should understand that it's more complicated and it's not politically feasible at this point. It will complicate our politics. By declaring the security zones, will be easier for the soldiers to contain, especially those areas that are very badly devastated by these miners. So in other way, I'm saying that there is a need for military or security deployment to ensure that we start putting a stop to this immediately. Finally, I
did not see that in the statement. All that I hear them saying, we are continuing the usual enforcement, and we know what that's currently what's happening.
Yes.
So if what's happening
enforcement?
Is not delivering the results.
They've been doing this for the past 2 years, and the waters are worse today than 2 years ago. So what measures, what efforts are they making? I do not know.
Is there, you talk about dissonance. Is there somehow discord between what is really happening on the ground, what the minister was told by, these are regional security heads who went to meet the minister?
Well,
they say they are fighting it. Already they have deployed the system. We have sent drones, we have sent cameras, we have sent reporters. There are places that we do not see, in fact, the people are armed.
Yes.
We do not see anybody in security uniform around these places. And yet, we appear to have a certain national picture that there is active fighting happening on the ground. Wow. Now, let me bring in Doc, because this is the statement that has been released by the ministry. It is perhaps the greatest response so far to what has been happening, because there's been some silence on their side. Do you think this statement addresses the major problem we have on our hands today?
In my opinion, it doesn't. Why? Because there are issues. I do recall several years ago when Honorable Peter Amewu was the Minister for Lands
and Natural Resources. Yeah.
They produced a document which was acronym PAID. And this document was sourcing funds. It's an appraisal document on some funds they are looking for or have gotten to address this illegal or small-scale mining issues. In this document, it was indicated a number of factors that are encouraging illegal mining in the country. And I want to mention a couple of them. One is, illegal mining appears to be more lucrative than other small-scale poverty alleviation ventures. This is a government document.
Okay.
Secondly, they said we have a greed and get wealth quick mentality in this country.
Okay.
Government. Then he says that Ghanaians are fronting for foreigners to operate small-scale mining operations. Government statement.
Okay.
There's political interference and corruption. And there is introduction, okay, then they said weak enforcement of by relevant institutions. This document was prepared maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, somewhere around 2018.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now to come back and say we've met ministers and we are addressing these issues at the regional level. I mean, they know what it takes. If there is weak enforcement by relevant institutions, that has to be done. If there is the issue of political interference and corruption, well, those of us gathered here cannot solve that problem. It's the big shots who should solve it. There are others where they talk about opinion leaders, some chiefs, connivance of some chiefs, landowners, opinion leaders, foreigners involved in illegal mining. So the government knows the problems that we are confronted with in this country. They have nominated, but they have even given some measures taken to address this illegal mining way back 6, 7 years ago. And I could enumerate them. One of it, I think we all know, the inauguration of the Interministerial Task Force, which had been disbanded. Yeah. And a number of interventions have been made, and still we have this problem persistent. So it shows that there is, in my opinion, a lack of political will to solve this problem. And we have to solve this. Otherwise, for me, the level of degradation, I mean, I've followed environmental issues in this country since 1982. And I fully know what's going on in this country. But the state of our rivers, the extent of degradation of our lands, the conversion of farmlands, croplands to mining sites, it's unacceptable. And in my opinion, as our distinguished professor has said, there must be measures targeted at addressing the issues at the hotspots. Hotspots. Identify hotspots and address these issues immediately with whatever influence and force that you have. Because, as he said, we are approaching, in a couple of months' time, we'll be having elections. And if we bring in a political spin on this issue, we do it to our own detriment. Right. But we must find practical ways of solving it, because we cannot allow this thing to go on. As I had said, if mercury escapes into the water body, it can stay there for over 400 years. Well,
that's interesting. Please let me bring in Professor Achuai. Prof, the governance angle we started conversing on, the ministry says this is the best way to deal with it. Take it back to the regions. Let the regions continue with their usual and step up the kind of enforcement and the plans they have been rolling out over the years. Will this be the panacea, in your opinion?
No. One, the statement is very weak. It does not address the issue. It does not even give us the tangible things that the government is trying to do, apart from, oh, we are referring the matter to the regions. And the regions are not strong anyway. The Regional Coordinating Council are not strong anyway. You see, Ghana is on the brink of environmental, health, and social disaster if action is not taken. The Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, for instance, over the years, in its activities has drawn the attention of government to the degradation, to the problems of illegal mining, but nobody cares. The impunity is there. We are not trying to do the right thing. But you see, Ghana is already a centralized state, in spite of decentralization. It's still a centralized state. The regions are centralized, the districts are centralized. Nothing is working about decentralization. As I told you, there is supposed to be a district mining committee. It's not working. There is supposed to be a district office of the Minerals Commission. It's not working. So we need governmental action. Government must take the lead. Decentralization is also about national level leadership, because if you have taken the leadership at the national level, then the regional and the district will also follow. But if you don't do that, you are creating problems. So my view is that government will seal the backstops at the doorstep of government. It must take action for the region and districts to follow. But it is a collective responsibility. Ghanaians have been seeing these things in their areas, and they are not reported. They just condone with the illegalities. Nobody cared. Now we are in a great disaster. How do we get out of it? And we as a country, you see, and leadership is well tested, is well recognized if it's able to move the country out of this crisis. Is the leadership ready to do this?
Well, that's an interesting question. That question is to leadership. But organized labor has been issuing a very direct threat that they are giving government till the end of September. If action is not done, if organized labor will urgently embark on series of demonstrations and a nationwide strike if government fails to address the concerns raised by the end of September. Is this enough pressure from your perspective, Pops Abafo?
You see, I cannot recall in recent times when Ghanaians across board in their numbers are making such a unified demand on government.
Okay.
This is the first time all these groups, the religious groups, the trade unionist groups, civil society, the think tanks, almost everybody together on this matter. That tells you the seriousness of this. And I think I don't really understand why the government has been so lethargic in responding to this massive demand of the people.
They say there's a political cost to it.
I'm coming. Because these politicians, and it's not only one side, they've been engaged in this galamsey for years now. The ruling party, we know their principals who are directly encroaching on foreign reserves and mining gold. And one of them even had an effrontery to come to a studio with gold bars to show how rich he is.
Yeah.
And this is not something our security people or the president himself, this is not something he doesn't know. You see, so this is what is crippling. This is what is crippling the government. And unfortunately, in my view, I don't think the president has what it takes to call his own people to order.
Really?
I believe so.
Because this is particularly directed to him. In fact, TUC was organized labor was making demands directly on the president.
Of course. And I'm hoping he has what it takes to respond positively. So my question is whether, in fact, my good friend Professor Ayo was talking about whether government has the political will, and you said it too, to do. The reason why they cannot demonstrate that will is because they themselves are implicated in this crime against the nation.
But we have not seen evidence that the president himself.
I'm not saying the president.
The father of the nation.
I'm talking about politicians and other prominent individuals, including some chiefs. Yes, we know that. Yeah. It's public knowledge. I'm not creating the story. Yeah. So it's become an issue. Having mentioned the chiefs, if we are looking for solutions, because I remember some 4 years ago or 3 years ago, the current Minister for Lands went to Kumasi and solicited the support of our chiefs in fighting this country.
At a forum.
Yes. And that immediately tells you that this problem cannot even be solved without the full cooperation of the chiefs. After all, land in this country is owned by chiefs. So some people can bypass all these processes, official processes, and get a piece of land with the permission of the chief, and immediately they can start mining. So it's important to bring the chiefs into it. And I think when my good friend Professor Ayo was talking about the weakness of the local assembly systems and all, it's all because we have created a system that isolates the owners of the land from the process.
That's true.
We isolated the chiefs. So if they sit there somewhere, to use that English, and somebody comes and gives them whatever they give, and they all go to the backyard there to mine, what do we do? But if the chiefs were directly involved in the district assembly, maybe they are the presiding members, and you see this happening to you, you go to the meeting, I think others will remind you of your own responsibility for your area. We could deal with this issue better if you bring the chiefs to the center of it. Okay? Because the politicians and the bureaucrats and others who are managing our affairs for us, I think they are all struck by a disease that numbs their brains to do the right thing for the country. Otherwise, this thing cannot, couldn't have continued for all these years to the extent that all the main water bodies in the country are polluted. How? And all studies tell you the future conflicts of the world will be over water. Water. Okay? That's why the elite who have the money and whatever it is are here, they are importing water from France. In this country, you can go to shops and see imported bottled water.
A lot of it, actually.
Yeah.
It's just like when we ignore our roads and they get rotten, they go and buy four-wheel drive so they will not feed the bombs.
Yeah.
It's the same way they are doing, and this has been going for years. So to a large extent, we, the so-called elite, the educated people, highly educated people who are manning the country, are all guilty in terms of decisions that they take or not take. That is creating this crisis for us.
Yeah, Prof, let me take the issue of our traditional leaders. We recall not so long ago, the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei II, they stole some chiefs.
Precisely. Yeah.
Because he knows that they were implicated in illegal gold mining. At the meeting where the minister met with Asantehene a couple of, maybe a year or so ago, Asantehene was telling that he knows that about a third of the chiefs who are gathered there were involved. And he's taking action. So if Asantehene can take action, why can't the Minister of State also take action? Why can't the people in authority take action? If we say we prosecuted 222 people, how many of them are big shots? How many of them are owners of the excavators? How many of them were the financiers of this whole illegal operation? If you go and arrest 100, 200
poor young boys
in the mud, what are we doing?
Now, you mentioned this point about, and it just brings me to the point, is there enough action from the executive presidency? Would TUC's threat of a strike and series of demonstrations get action? It got results in the SNIT sales, but would it get results in this particular matter?
Well, if the TUC means what they say, and if they do what they claim they want to do, it will have action. Of course, I mean, the TUC has the members and the numbers
to paralyze it.
Exactly. But the question, I believe, is that the government should sit with all relevant stakeholders and try and solve this problem and take responsibility for managing them. Because all the mineral resources in this country is vested in the president.
Yeah.
So he literally owns the minerals, and he exploits them through his ministers and uses the revenue to run the country.
Is it high time we heard from the president himself?
We should hear from the president. We should hear from the president. He should be able to respond. I mean, look at the kind of leadership our president provided during the COVID time. Regularly, he was addressing the nation. Yeah. We had a national crisis, a national emergency, and we all took comfort from the statements and the efforts the president and his ministers were taking to address this issue. The president should address the nation on this issue and tell us what he's doing or what he intends doing and timelines to resolve it, because TSU had given them barely three weeks from now.
Yes, to the end of September.
Right? So we don't have to wait until...
But then again,
Prof, yes, you say.
It's a tragedy if the president has to wait till he's punched by citizens before he acts.
Or there's massive pressure.
Yes, that really disturbs me, because this thing is not new. He should have seen it coming all along. That really disturbs me, because it shows, again, the lack of responsiveness of government. to citizens' concerns. And this is a major concern of citizens, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping...
It's perhaps the number one issue on the minds of people.
For the past 3-4 weeks,
yes.
it's the headlines all the time. And all sorts of people in the country. If we follow these videos, ordinary people in the villages, they are crying.
That's true.
Okay? So I think that this is the time for the president to show real leadership. I know he's in office till December, January 7th. Until January 7th, when he hands over to whoever wins the election, he's the president. And he will be held accountable for the failure of this particular matter. So he should act now to redeem himself before he leaves office.
Is that also a message you would want to re-echo, Professor Achuaye? Is President Akufo-Addo's legacy directly impacted by this particular fight or the lack thereof?
Very much so. I thought that he could have used the fight against Galamsey as a true legacy, but he has not done so. Honestly, he's behaving like, sorry to say, a lame duck president. He does not, he hasn't got anything to fight for. He has only 4 months more. What does he care at all? There is no sense of urgency in fighting the whole issue. And that worries me, that a government which has been in power for almost 8 years lacks the urgency to deal with issues. It all boils down to how do we implement our rules and regulations? How do we implement our policies? And this president, even in his last days, can leave a legacy if he is able to fight the canker of Galamsey.
Now, gentlemen, I'll be taking final words from you. By way of advice on how best the Ghanaian population can understand that this is an existential threat and that it ought to be dealt with in a way that does not wipe out everybody, that posterity will not be very happy with us if we do not deal with this matter, mindful of the future we ought to live for them. Let me start with Dr. Manfo.
Crisis. The Galamsey impacts or the adverse impacts of Galamsey is affecting our life support systems. The water we drink, the water we use for all other purposes are highly contaminated, are highly silted. And this is a resource which had been there for literally
beginning of time.
That's true,
And we are using a couple of decades to destroy everything. Secondly, we are even in danger of breaking some international conventions Ghana had agreed to, like the Minamata Convention for mercury. We are contaminating our river bodies and our soils with mercury. We are destroying our forest, flora, and fauna. We are breaking the Biodiversity Convention. We are breaking the Climate Change Convention. And we are disappointing our own people. Look at the image Ghana would create. The damage to ourselves and the damage to our image even outside the country. We have to find a way of solving this problem now. And all Ghanaians, I think this is a fight for all Ghanaians. Everybody must get on board, irrespective of your political affiliation. We are talking of Mother Ghana, and we should all work towards solving this problem. Otherwise, as I said, when we destroy this natural resource base, it's going to take us hundreds or thousands of years to recover.
Let me come to you, Professor Achuaye, final words on what we can do going forward to ensure we do not get into this mess again.
Going forward, I think that we should implement our laws. The laws are there. I mean, Act 703 is one of the best legal framework on mining in the world. I mean, so we should enforce the laws. We should also ensure that both local, national leadership work in tandem with the citizens. And then, of course, we should also be dealing with issues around how can we ensure that the issue of Galamsey do not affect the elections. Because we have only about 4 months more. We are on this, and it becomes a problem. And then, of course, we are faced with with the problem of, oh, the elections cannot be held because of A, B, C, and D. We should try as much as possible. By the end of this month, we should solve this problem. Otherwise, the elections may be affected.
Certainly, I'll be coming to you in studio. Professor Bafo Adjuman, do you have for final words, sir?
You know, Raymond, societies or civilization flounders when the living generation consumes more than they inherited and leave behind less than they met. And that's exactly what is happening. We are not thinking of the next generation by this behavior. Yeah. We want to squander everything today. All of us want to be rich today without any thoughts about tomorrow. So if, in fact, our leaders, and all of us are leaders, if we realize that this is going to befall us, then we have to act quickly. And the acting on this is not just the words, like the nice, brief statement that you read from the ministry. Words must be over. Convening a stakeholders meeting is a typical of Ghana's approach to problem solving. The stakeholders will meet and have some coffee and tea, and they talk all the big English. They come back, nothing happens. It's happened many times in our life here. The president can take immediate measures, and I have suggested mapping out the hot areas, immediately declaring them security zone to enable the soldiers to quickly go and cordon those areas and protect those areas and drive away everybody. Then we should also, this is an opportunity for us also to review the way we manage our natural resources. Okay. And the laws that the elite has created over the years to their own benefit rather than to the benefit of Ghanaians. All right? We need to review those laws. And we have to ultimately seek full control of our minerals. Ghanaians should own the minerals instead of being happy with 8-10% and others coming in to take the bulk away. I think we have been shortchanging ourselves all these years. So we need a new thinking, new way we see our country, where it's going, and what we need to do to secure the future for the next generation.
Professor Bafo Adjuman is a former UN Senior Governance Advisor. He was in studio with another former UN Senior Climate Change Advisor and chairman currently of the Environment and Sustainability Thematic Group of the Frimpong Manso Institute. You also heard Professor Joseph Achuayi join us. Of course, Dr. George Manfo, I'm grateful to you. Prof, I'm ever grateful to you for making it in studio, and also to you, Professor Joseph Achuayi. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we tie the nice ribbons on today's edition of UPfront.